Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Titus Andronicus, and today we get to hear from Titus Andronicus. We're still just in Act 1, Scene 1, because we just started this play yesterday. But what I can tell you so far is that we are in Rome. The emperor has just recently died, and his two sons, the elder one being Saturnius, the younger one Basanius, are both trying to drum up public support for their bids to become the next emperor. But yesterday we had Marcus Andronicus, who is the brother of Titus, saying, slow down, the people actually want Titus to be the next emperor because of all the great military victories that he's had, and so on and so forth. So Saturnius and Basanius are like, okay, and they tell their throngs of people to go away, and they go in to speak to the Senate. But at that moment, there's a great big flourish, and the gates of the city open, and Titus, who was summoned back by the Senate for this whole, who's going to be the emperor thing, comes in with 4 of his sons, and there's a couple of guys carrying a casket, and there's the queen of the Goths named Tamara, and 3 of her sons, and Aaron the Moor, and a bunch of other people. I think the stage direction basically just says get as many people as you possibly can and have them all enter at this time. So they all enter with this great big pomp and circumstance and flourish, and Titus addresses everybody by saying, "Hail Rome, victorious in thy morning weeds. Lo, as the bark that hath discharged his fraught returns with precious lading to the bay, from whence at first she weighed her anchorage, cometh Andronicus, bound with laurel boughs, to resalute his country with his tears. Tears of true joy for his return to Rome. Thou great defender of this capital, stand gracious to the rights that we intend. Romans, of 25 valiant sons, half of the number that King Priam had, behold the poor remains, alive and dead. These that survive, let Rome reward with love. These that I bring unto their latest home, with burial amongst their ancestors. Here Goths have given me leave to sheathe my sword. Titus, unkind and careless of thine own, why sufferest thou thy sons, unburied yet, to hover on the dreadful shore of Styx? Make way to lay them by their brethren. There greet in silence, as the dead are wont, and sleep in peace, slain in your country's wars. O sacred receptacle of my joys, sweet cell of virtue and nobility, how many sons of mine hast thou in store that thou wilt never render me more?" So it's a very interesting speech. He starts out, it's one of his sons in this coffin that's being brought in, and he mentions in this piece that he had 25 sons, which I'm sort of hoping for her sake we're not all from the same mother, because we'll also find out later he has at least one daughter. So he is parent to at least 26 children. I kind of hope that they came from different mothers, because if it all was just from one woman, ow, she needs a cocktail at this point. But anyway, he starts off this speech with oh, you look so lovely in your funeral garb, but he's like, I'm back, and I'm happy to be back in Rome, and these 4 guys here are all that's left of my sons. And then he's able to take a minute. That line here, the Goths have given me leave to sheathe my sword. It's like he's been fighting a war against the Goths for the last 10 years, and the Goths being a warlike people from Germany-ish, Germanic people that are sort of warlike in this sense. He's been fighting against them for 10 years, and he's lost all but 4 of his sons in those battles. And we heard in Marcus's speech yesterday that at least 5 times he's come back to bury his sons. So at the same time that he's doing this joyful homecoming thing, he then also takes a moment and he's like, wait a second, this son of mine needs to be buried, open up the tomb and put him in. So they open up the tomb, and he sort of gets to eulogize his sons, but then also even just sort of pay tribute to the tomb in which they're kept, because so many of his children are in there. I mean, just think about that for a second. I don't know how many of you watching this are parents, but imagine the grief of losing one child and then multiply that by 21. He's lost 21 of his sons in this war. And this is going to be very important in all of the other stuff that comes later. It's important to keep in mind, I think anyway, at least how much how much Titus has lost already. So anyway, he sort of eulogizes his son who is to be buried, and then one of his other sons, I believe it's Lucius, says, well, we need to slaughter some Goths, so bring us a Goth prisoner and we'll kill him and dismember him. I told you this is a very violent play, and I should have given a trigger warning before sharing that sentence, but trigger warning. He's like, let's bring in a Goth prisoner and dismember him as payment for all of the children that you have lost. And Titus is like, okay, here's the eldest son of the Goth queen. And the Goth queen, Tamara, is there, rather as a prisoner at the moment, along with all of the other Goths that came in with her 3 sons that were brought in with her. And she's going to have some thoughts on whether or not her eldest son should be executed right here and now. So come on back tomorrow for some more gore and another monologue. I'll see you then. Mwah.